Right. Just about Asra, we're doing tonight's Tirshu B'Halacha. We're holding on Kuf Ayin Ches Amid Beis, the last line. We're in Siman Shin Lamed Daled, and we are beginning with Sif Chavav. So the Mechaber says, Yachal Loimar Bifnei Eino Yehudi, you're allowed to say in the presence of a non-Jew, Kol HaMechabe Einoi Mafsid. A fire started, and you have a non-Jew here. We just turned the page onto Kuf Ayin Ches Amid Beis. We have a non-Jew here, and he's able to assist. He's able to save things from the fire. So says the Mechaber, while you're not allowed to tell him directly, please save things for me, but you could make a general announcement, and you could say, Kol HaMechabe Einoi Mafsid. Anyone who will put out the fire will not lose. And if he goes ahead and he does so okay, you'll make out well. Let's turn back to Kuf Ayin Ches Amid Aleph and see the Mishnah Berurah. Eis Katan Samach Zayin Yachal Loimar. And the Chavetz Chaim explains, Kevan she'einoi oimer loi kabei. You weren't mitzaveh the guy. This is not a mir la'akum. You didn't say in a direct manner to the non-Jew, kabei, extinguish the fire for me. If you would do that, then he would be your shliach. That would be awesome. But over here, you only said, anybody who does it won't lose. If you look over there, it's in Hilchas Nedarim. The Mashber Sham, it implies over there, the loymar b'lashon noicheach, to say in a direct way to a particular person, Im tichabe, if you will put out the fire, loy tafsid, you will not lose, gam kein ein rashoy. That also would not be proper. You wouldn't be allowed to do that. Over there in Hilchos Nedarim, what the Mechaber is talking about is, somebody is mudar hanome chaveroi, somebody made a neder, that he made a vow, that he is not allowed to derive benefit from somebody else. So Ruvain made a vow that he's not allowed to derive any benefit from Shimon. Now, Ruvain, let's say, is a very poor person. He doesn't have what he needs. And Shimon desperately wants to help him out. But Shimon can't help him out. Because if Shimon will give him anything, then Ruvain is deriving benefit from him, which is not allowed. It says over there that what Shimon can do is, he can make a general announcement. And he could say, anybody who will help out Ruvain will not lose. Then somebody goes ahead, he hears the announcement, he goes over to Ruvain, he gives Ruvain $150. Now Shimon could go back and he could give that fellow $150. You helped him out, here I'm giving you $150. So the same kunst, the same trick that we're using here, you could use in Hilchos Nedarim. However, over there it says that for Shimon to go over to a particular person and tell him, if you will help Ruvain, you will not lose, that you cannot do. Because that's too direct. And in that case, it's too much as if you're making him your shliach. The amount is not your main. Because that's, again, it's like a direct tzivui. It has to be in a very generalized turn. Anybody who will help will not lose. You find that the Shiltei Gibarim says that you could be makel over here by a deleika. He's ready to be makel, and he's ready to say that even to do it in this slightly more direct way would be okay. They bring down the Shiltei Gibarim over there inside, says the reason he's more makel by deleika is because, again, we have this funny balance that we've been struggling with throughout Siman Shin Lamed Daled. And that is, we want to allow the person who stands to lose from the fire, we want to give him enough rope so that he can do enough that he shouldn't chas v'shalom come to put out the fire himself. And at the same time, we don't let him do too much that he's going to get bold, he's going to get agitated, and he's going to put out the fire by himself. So we have this funny balance. So the Shiltei Gibarim says over here, he says, by deleika, I'm going to be makel, and I'm going to let you say it in a little bit more direct way, to say to a certain person, go ahead and you won't lose, because I'm afraid that otherwise the guy might come in to put out the fire himself. Vayin machik esavda la'el b'siman shin zayin sif yotes. Over there, we're not talking about a dleika. Over there, we're not talking about a case of fire. So you don't have this logic where we want to give the guy a leniency so he shouldn't put out the fire by himself. And over there, the Shilti Gebarim is Taka Machmer. Okay, Eis Katan Samaches. The Mechaber said we're holding on the bottom of Kufayin Ches Amad Aleph, Shin Lamed Dalet Sif Chavav. The Mechaber says you're allowed to say in front of a non-Jew, you're allowed to say anybody who puts out the fire will not lose. So on the bottom line of the Mishnah Berurah, Kufayin Ches Amad Aleph, Eis Katan Samaches, the Chavetz Chaim says, Bifnei Eina Yehudi, Afilu Hu Schirai HaMuskar Lo Lizman. Even if this non-Jew is not just stam a fellow who's walking in the street, he's actually a worker of yours. He's somebody who's in your employ. Still, you could go ahead and make this announcement, and we're not going to say that you're making him bedafka a shliach. Aval also loymar la'ini Yehudi lachabis l'kulei alma, says the Chavetz Chaim. But to say to a non-Jew directly, go put out the fire, straight amir la'akum, to do a malacha, to go put out a fire, that everybody holds is usher. Why? Because since a person is very worried and very agitated about his financial loss, we're worried once we're going to allow somebody to cross over that line, and we're going to allow him to directly instruct a non-Jew to put the fire out, so now what's happening? Now he's getting involved in extinguishing the fire, right? Because he tells the non-Jew, take the fire, put the fire out, put the fire out. No, grab the fire extinguisher, put the fire out. You're not doing a good job. You're supposed to spray at the base of the fire. And he'll grab the fire extinguisher and start doing it himself. So here already we're crossing a line, and that line we're not going to cross. However, Zulas bekisvei HaKodesh, but we did say that when it comes to Sifrei Kedusha, mutter loymar la'in Yehudi lachabos, over there we are matir to go allow you to tell a non-Jew to put the fire out, mipnei bizayon kisvei HaKodesh, because of the disgrace of the Sifrei Kedusha that we're not going to have. The Chanal b'Sif Yud Ches, like we saw in Sif Yud Ches, l'inyan atzalo derech rishos harabim. Over there, the Mechaber said that if you want to ask a non-Jew to go save Sifrei Kedusha, and he's going to have to take them out and bring it to a real Rishos HaRabim, which is Haitzah Daraisa, over there we said that we're matter that because of the Bezayin of the Sifrei Kedusha. So too over here, the Chavetz Chaim is saying to directly ask the non-Jew to put the fire out would also be mutter. Now the Chavetz Chaim brings in a little side point here. Mace usvarim, if you're dealing with a fire, and you have a mace, you have a corpse to take out from the fire, and you have Sifrei Kedusha, and they changed the girsa over here. Here in our text, it says, V'yesh sipuk lahatzol shneim, and you have the ability to save both. They changed this girsa to Ve'ein. Ve'ein sipuk lahatzol shneim. What do you do if you're not going to be able to save both? So now you have a decision to make. Do I save the Sifrei Kedusha? Do I worry about the covet of the Sifrei Kedusha? Or do I worry about covet HaMeis? So the Chavetz Chaim says, Meis Kaidem. Covet HaMeis comes first. Bari Umasukun, if you have two people, no one should ever know from these decisions, but you have two people to save from a fire, one is healthy and one is not, one is already in danger of losing his life. Bari Kaidem. The healthy individual is to be saved first because the healthy individual has a greater chance of survival. So you have to save the healthy individual first. Well, obviously it's talking about where he can't. If he could save himself, let him save himself. Yeah. Okay, the Mechaber said that the announcement you're going to make is, Kol HaMechaber Einay Mafsid. Anybody who will put out the fire will not lose. Now here again, you're going to see that same balance. We just said, the Chavetz Chaim just said, what's the reason that you're not allowed to tell a non-Jew to extinguish the fire? Because you're going to get too involved in extinguishing the fire, and you might come to go ahead and extinguish it yourself. Now, says the Chavetz Chaim, why are we matir to make a general announcement? Anybody who will put out the fire will not lose. We allow him to say this, because a person is so agitated about his financial loss, if you're not going to allow him to save to avoid his loss, and by doing this, by making such an announcement, he's going to go ahead and he's going to put out the fire by himself. So you have to give him enough rope that he won't come. He'll be able to avoid the temptation of putting out the fire himself. But you can't give him so much leeway that he's going to get involved in the extinguishing and forget that it's Shabbos and go put out the fire himself. The Chayla Indian Shar Hezek, Chavetz Chaim says, this doesn't only apply to fires, this would apply to other kind of damage that he may suffer. Also, l'sakin ba'atzmai, where we might worry that he might come to fix it himself and be over on Isser Shabbos. Also, he can make this kind of general announcement to a non-Jew. Avo le'inyan shar kol malacha shel Shabbos. But when it comes to doing any other kind of malacha on Shabbos, a fellow has a tree, he has an apple tree, and he wants a nice fresh apple. So he wants to go ahead and he wants to say to a non-Jew, anybody who picks an apple for me will not lose. That you can't do. Also, Loimar, kol oisa malachazu einay mafsid. Chavetz Chaim is just letting you know, don't go ahead and take this heter and start applying this heter to all sorts of Malachas Shabbos. We're making allowances over here because of financial loss. We're not giving you a way to avoid Shabbos and come up with trickery to avoid Hilchos Shabbos wholesale. Okay, the Mechaber says weiter, top line, Kafayim Chesam and Beis, middle of the line. So we said you're allowed to make this announcement to a non-Jew. Says the Mechaber, Af im einoi mezumin kan. If there are no non-Jews here, so you don't have a non-Jew to make this announcement to. Yachal likroisai sheyavoi. You're allowed to go find a non-Jew and ask a non-Jew to come. Now again, you're not going to be allowed to find a non-Jew and instruct them to put the fire out. You could go find a non-Jew and say, I got a problem, can you please come? Even though you know that once the non-Jew comes, he's going to put the fire out. Now let's, it's not here, we'll go a little bit further. This same ruling would apply to any other kind of damage that you might suffer, a damage that comes suddenly, something that just happened. Kigoyin, for instance, in Nisrayaya Chavish Shal Yayin. If a person has a big barrel of wine and he sees that the barrel, something happened, the barrel got a knack, and now it's cracked, and now it's leaking. Yacha likrayena Yehudi afal pi shavada yisaknena kishayavai. He could go ahead and call a guy over to help him, even though he knows that he's going to come, and right away he's going to do the malacha. So we don't look at this and say that by virtue of the fact that you called the non-Jew, you made him a shliach to do the malacha. No, I called him to come over here. I didn't give him a command to do anything. I didn't make a request to do anything. I just told him to come over here. Now the Chavetz Chaim extends this. It's really, you might think it's self-explanatory, but it is a little bit of a jump. In Eis Cotton Ayin, the Chavetz Chaim says, Behezek haba pisaim. First, the Mishnah Berurah says, Bebeis Yosef Kasav, the Mechaber writes in the Beis Yosef, this that the Mechaber uses the language that you're allowed to take advantage of this heter anytime there's a hezek haba pisaim, anytime there's a damage that jumped on you, something that came out of the blue. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Bebeis Yosef Kasav the urcha de milsa nakat. He only uses this turn of phrase because that's the normal course of events. Why would you be calling a guy to help you on Shabbos? Because this was something that came out of the blue, something you didn't expect. If you would have known from Erev Shabbos that this was going to happen, you would have taken care of it before Shabbos. Aval huadin in noidaloi, says the Beis Yosef, even if you knew that this might happen on Erev Shabbos, Minishtar Shabbos, and you were negligent and you didn't take care of it, Gam kein mutar loyma b'loshen zeh. The Beis Yosef says, if this hezek is now happening on Shabbos, let's say it's something that's weather dependent, and you heard that it was going to rain. You checked the weather, and you knew it was going to rain on Shabbos. But you were negligent, and you didn't protect whatever you had to protect. Now you look out the window on Shabbos and say, oy vey, it's raining. I forgot to go cover whatever it is. Oy, what am I going to do? Okay. Says the Beis Yosef, you're allowed to find a non-Jew, and you're allowed to call him over and say, help me out. You're not allowed to instruct him what to do, but you're allowed to say, come over and help me out. But the Achrayim don't seem to be maskim to the Beis Yosef. It's mashma from the Achrayim that they're not so sure that the Mechaber is right on that. Says the Mishnah Berurah, is cut 9 aleph, Yachal likrayeni Yehudi. If you don't have a non-Jew present, you can go find one and call him over. Beis Yosef b'shem Hari Abuav Muchach to adin the mutaloy. Not only are you allowed to find the non-Jew and call him to come over, but once he does come over, you could now say to him, Kol hamasakin einay masid. Anybody who fixes when I need fixing will not lose. Now, again, we saw the first halacha. The Mechaber said, you have the fire, you could make an announcement to the non-Jews that are present, anybody who puts out the fire will not lose. Now we're extending it. We said, what if there are no non-Jews? So the Mechaber said you could call over non-Jews. Chafetz Chaim is telling you, after you call them over, you could also make this announcement and say, anybody who puts out the fire will not lose. Now that's not necessarily a simple extension to make, because in the first case, you didn't call the non-Jew over. The non-Jews were there. You made a general announcement. Anybody who puts out the fire will not lose to the people that are there. So in halacha, we say, we don't look at it as if he is your shliach. We don't look at it as if you made him a messenger. Because the truth is, I never said anything to this non-Jew. I was talking to the world in general. These people happen to be standing here, and I said, anybody who puts out the fire will not lose. In the second case, you did address this non-Jew directly. He wasn't here. You called him over. So maybe by virtue of the fact that you called him over, you might think that now you go ahead and you make an announcement that anybody who puts out the fire will not lose. Maybe you are making him a shliach, because he wouldn't even be here if you wouldn't have called him over. Says the Chafetz Chaim, no. He brings down that no, once he comes over, Maria Abuav says you can make this announcement anyway. Zok. Yeah, this is to avoid the pseida. This is to avoid the makam hefsid. All of these heterim, all of these leniencies are because we want to try to help the guy out. He shouldn't take such a financial hit from the fire. All of this, I don't know where you joined us at the Siman, but no. So the one who's having the fire, the yid shouldn't have financial loss. Oh, you're saying on the kol on the chada einay mafsid, anyone who puts out the fire will not lose? Yeah, what it means is you're hinting to the non-Jew that if you'll go extend yourself and you pull out the fire, you won't lose. What does that mean? After Shabbos, I'll take care of you. I had it's not the same halacha, but I had in a previous lifetime. I was those of you who remember my father. Well, those here that remember my father, Shalom. So my father ran a hotel, if you remember. So after his p'tira, I ran it for a while, and we did a sukkos. Now, I didn't do this. I rented the hotel out to a Yiddish caterer who ran a sukkos program. I was there. I urged him not to use my waiters. I urged him to use union waiters, because Jewish people sitting around a Yom Tov table and eating are from the hardest guests to satisfy. They read the menu only to find out what they want to order that's not on the menu. Very hard to satisfy. So I knew that my waiters are used to a non-Jewish wedding. There's chicken and meat. I mean, there's not, over here there's going to be this and that, and I want it this way and I want it that way. He said, use union waiters. He didn't want to do it. He used my wait staff. After the first Yom Tov meal, they were ready to walk. One Yom Tov meal, they were done. So he came over to me, what am I going to do? I'm losing my waiters. So I called all the waiters into a room, and I asked them, I said, how long do you know me? Have you ever lost out by helping me out? No. I said, fine. So now do what you think is smart. They all stayed. I told them, I said, I can't talk business. It's my holiday. I can't talk business. But you never lost, right? You never lost. So do what's smart. They all stayed. Okay, sagt der Mechaber weiter. Oh, that's not in the purview of this. Different child. Okay, sagt weiter. Where are we holding? Okay, now we go into the Ramah. We're on the third line, Kafayin Chesav and Beis Hagah. Now, We've been dealing in Siman Shin Lamed Aleph already for days about what you're allowed to do by a fire. Comes the Ramah all the way near the end of the Siman. Haga. V'chol hadinim haniskarim b'dinei hadleka. All of these halachas that we have been busy learning about what you could do by a fire. Hani mili b'yamehem. This is all in the days of the Mishnah, in the days of the Gemara. Aval bizman hazeh, nowadays, shanu shriyim bein einam Yehudim, where we're not living in our own lands, where we're living amongst non-Jews, v'hichshash sakonas tefashos, and that creates a chash of sakonas tefashos, and the Chavetz Chaim will tell us what this means. But right away, since we're living amongst Einam Yehudim, we're living amongst non-Goyim, to allow the possibility of a fire getting out of control, non-Jews, to allow the possibility of a fire getting out of control is going to create a danger of sakonas tefashos. Kasvur Rishayim v'Achrayim zal shemuter lechabos gleika b'Shabbos. You're allowed to put out a fire on Shabbos. Mishum deyesh pa sakonas tefashos, because automatically there's a risk of loss of life to a fire. V'hazariz harei zeh meshubach, and the one who acts with greater alacrity, the zariz to put out the fire, harei zeh meshubach. Umikol makom, he's to be praised. Umikol makom, however, hakol lefiya inyan. The Ramah does say you do have to look at the situation. Dimo you betuchim vadai. If you are certain, now betuchim vadai is a double lashon. You are certainly certain. You could certainly trust that there will not be a danger, also l'chabos. Then you are not allowed to put out the fire, and all the halachas that we learned until now apply. But you have to be very certain. You want to know how certain you have to be? Avo, b'chshash sakonas safek. If there's a chash, if there's even a worry of a sakonas safek, of a doubt that there might be a sakana, mutter lechabos afilu adleika bebeisei shalei Yehudi. You're allowed to put out a fire, even if the fire is burning in a non-Jew's house. So if there's any shum doubt that there might be a sakana, you got to put the fire out. V'chein noyagin, and the Ramah says, and that is the way we are noyag. What? Well, the Chiddush is huge. The Chiddush is because we've had this whole Siman that didn't say this way. This whole Siman is telling us until now how you're only allowed to do this, you're only allowed to do that, you're only allowed to do this, you're only allowed to save this, you're only allowed to do that. Now we've mentioned it. I gave you a heads up, and the Mishnah Berurah kept on giving us a heads up throughout the Siman that we're going to see later in Sif Chavav that if there's a risk of danger to life and limb, put the fire out. But the Mechaber hasn't said it, and the Ramah hasn't said it until now. Okay, we're going to break here for a second and go down to the Mishnah Berurah. Sif cotton, ice cotton, iron bays. You're allowed to put out the fire, the Ramah says. Indeed, you have to put out the fire. Mishum diyesh pa sakonas tefashos, because there is danger to life. Why? Shekeshahadleika miskaberes, because when the fire grows, oz heim chaytvim v'shoilulim. That's when the looters come out. Now they're all going to come out, and they're all looking to make a quick buck, and they want to loot where the fire is. And then when somebody will go to defend his possessions, in other words, when something like this happens, the crazies come out. And once the crazies come out, you don't know what they're going to do. Now, I saw this Mishnah Berurah, and this Mishnah Berurah gave me pause, because this Mishnah Berurah seems to be touching up the Ramah. He's telling you know why the Ramah says that there's a sakonas tefashos? Because of looters, not because of the fire, because of the looters. So I asked Rabbi Goldman, the Paisik by Yeshiva, I asked Rabbi Goldman, I said, is the Chavetz Chaim, do you feel that the Mishnah Berurah over here is being very specific and saying that the Ramah is only worried about this sakana? And he told me, no. He said, we're worried also about a sakana, a very simple sakana. You have a fire burning. You want to be a fruma, and you're not going to put the fire out. You have a non-Jew who lives next door, right? Your house is burning, and he's like, I can't do anything. I can't do anything. The guy's worried about his possessions. He's worried the fire's going to jump to his house, right? He'll he'll kill you. I even had a shayla like this. I have it in my house. I bought my house. It's an old house, and it only had, in the whole house, it had 2 hardwired smoke alarms. One on the first floor, one on the second floor. I wanted more smoke alarms. To hardwire in smoke alarms all over the house cost a fortune. So there is a company, First Alert, makes a wireless smoke alarm system where they talk to each other, all the units. So if one goes off in the kitchen, chas v'shalom, it's fire in the kitchen, they go off all over the house. So I put those all over the house. They worked great for 2 years. And for some reason, after 2 years, I started getting false alarms. And they'd go off, and you can't shut them. So I asked, I said, if they go off on Shabbos, these things make a racket. These things make a racket that I could hear them. I live a 7-8 minute walk from yeshiva. I'm starting to walk from yeshiva home. I could already hear them. I know it's coming from my house. So I said, if this will go off at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm standing there twiddling my thumbs, that I can't put them out, the guy next door is going to come out. He's going to want to take my head off. It's Friday night, and So especially electricity, we don't know exactly what the malach of electricity is. Is it baina? Is it havara? According to the vast majority of places, it's derabanan. So I said, if it's a derabanan, so if you could do a derabanan with a shinoi, right? Hit the button with your elbow or with your nose or something. So I asked, is it a mark of sakana? So the truth is that Rabbi Goldman was ready to be materit. Rabbi Goldman was ready to be materit with a shinoi. He held that, he's the guy nowadays. You don't know. Look at these road rage, right? These road rage incidents. You never know. A guy will come out and lose his mind. When I asked Reuven about it, Reuven he didn't want to say no. Instead, he said, what kind of smoke alarms are they? All right, so change them. Do something now to avoid the problem. Get rid of them and fix them. Don't. He didn't want to say yes. He didn't want to be matter. Okay, we got to go weiter. All right. So, Mishnah Berurah, Eis Katan Ein Gimel. Bachshash Sakana Suffolk. Even if there's a worry about a possibility, a doubt that there might be a danger. Umizeh Yotza HaHeter L'Chabis Hadleika B'Chomokin. Says the Mishnah Berurah, from here comes out the heter that we have, that you put out a fire. There's a fire, you put it out. Kevin the efsherim lo yechabena, because if there's a possibility that if you will not put it out, al yachsar mihiyoy sham ba'ir zakin oichayla she'en yakol avrayach. You never know that somewhere the fire gets out of control, the fire spreads, and you thought that the fire was going to be isolated to one room. You thought the fire was going to be isolated to one house. But the fire got out of control, and it spread, and in one house there was an elderly person, or there was an infirm person, she'en yakol avrayach, who can't run away from the fire, v'saveh adleik olav, and the fire will come on him. I mean, I'll ask everybody here, did any of you ever think that you were going to read about nowadays in the United States 1,000 people missing from a fire? Whoever heard? In the United States, the fire department comes, puts the fire out. I mean, like, yeah. The fire, like, you never know with fire. This, he's referring back to the beginning of Shin Lamed Daled, where we had a whole shtickle over there. Now that there's a heter to put a fire out, do we say that takes away all of the halachas that we had? Now there's no room for gzeira anymore, that we don't let you save your possessions because you might come to put the fire out. Now we're saying you're allowed to put the fire out. So now there's no longer room for gzeira. But if you remember back at Sif Daled, what we said is the gzeira still remains in place, because the gzeira was not only that you might put the fire out. The gzeira is you might get involved in saving your possessions, forget it's Shabbos, and you might come to other malachas as well. You might come to haitzah, you might come to digging a hole and being over either on baina or on chayrish. Okay, Sifkat 9 Dalet, Mutter l'chabos, says the Chavetz Chaim, u'mitzvah l'haidia zois barabim. It's a mitzvah to let people know the mutter lechabos, brings down from the Pri Megadim. It's a mitzvah to let people know that they're allowed to put a fire out on Shabbos. The Chanal b'Siman Shin Chav Ches Seif Beis, he refers us back to Siman Shin Chav Ches, where the Mechaber says that you have to let people know that there's a mitzvah. If you have a chayla sheyesh by sakana, it's a mitzvah to be Mechal Shabbos to help him. Zok the Ramah Viter. Now this is a tricky Ramah. We're 3 lines off the bottom of Kafayin Chesam and Beis, in the middle of the line. Says the Ramah, V'dafka lechabos hadleika. When we're saying over here that there's a heter, the heter is to put the fire out. The heavy malacha she'eina tzricha legufa. We've said many times that extinguishing a fire is really a malacha she'eina tzricha legufa. It's a malacha that you're not doing for the intended outcome. In other words, the real malacha of extinguishing a fire is when you want to make a coal. The only way to make a coal is to have a fire and to extinguish it. That's the ikar malacha of kivoy, of extinguishing. But when you're extinguishing a fire, not because you want to make a coal, you're extinguishing a fire because I don't want fire. It's the same thing as you have a malacha of digging a hole. The malacha of digging a hole, if you're doing it in a house, it's boina, it's building. So it's digging a hole for the purpose of improving a building. Digging a hole in a field is a told of chayrish. Why do you dig a hole in a field? To improve the field for planting. That's what plowing is. But if you dig a hole outside in a field because you need dirt, right? That's a malacha she'eina tzricha legufa. You're not doing it because you need a hole. You're not doing it because you want to improve the ground. You're doing it because you need dirt. That's a malacha she'eina tzricha legufa. A malacha she'eina tzricha legufa, according to many shittas, is really mutter midaraisa. It's only in Isser D'Rabbanan. So says the Ramah here, v'dafka lechabos hadleika. The heter, the permissibility that we have here is to put the fire out to have a malacha she'eina tzricha legufa, which is a malacha she'eina tzricha legufa. V'yesh sakana, and we're allowing you to do it because there's danger. Im lo yechabe, if you don't extinguish it. Aval. Aser lechalel Shabbos kedei lahatzel momoin. It is still aser to do chilul Shabbos to save your possessions. Let's jump down to the Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah in Ois Cotton Ayin Hay. The heavy malacha she'eina tzricha legufa. Beir din zel el bareish ayin ches by Mishnah Berurah Sif Cotton Gimel. That is where the Mishnah Berurah goes to length to explain what a malacha she'eina tzricha legufa is, which I just paraphrased the Mishnah Berurah over there. Ois Cotton Ayin Vav she'eina tzricha legufa pirush. What's the difference that it's a malacha she'eina tzricha legufa? Ve'ekol aman da'amar ein chayav aleha. There is a man da'amar that says a malacha she'eina tzricha legufa is only in Isser D'Rabbanan. Ukedela kamei b'sif chav zayin. Now, says the Mishnah Berurah, ube'emes le'inyin kiboy, truthfully, when it comes to the heter to put the fire out, bichdi nokat. The Ramah said that it's a malacha she'eina tzricha legufa pointlessly. There is no point to the fact that it's a malacha she'eina tzricha legufa to explain why it's mutter to put the fire out. The reason it's mutter to put the fire out is because of sakana. That's why it's mutter. And if there's a sakana, you would be allowed to put the fire out, even if it was a malacha she'eina legufa. Even if it would be in Isser D'Oraisa, you would be allowed to put the fire out if there's a sakana. So says the Chavetz Chaim, this that the Ramah says 2 reasons for the heter, because it's a malacha she'eina tzricha legufa and it's the sakana, pointless. So why did he mention the fact? Why is he throwing in the factor that it's a malacha she'eina tzricha legufa? So explains the Chavetz Chaim. First he says, "Ta'afilu you have to keep a malacha, even if it's mamash a malacha deraisa, malacha tzricha legufa, gam kein mutter, it's still permissible. Kev the kosav she'etz sakana lo yichabe, because he said there's danger if you don't extinguish the fire. So it's mutter to put the fire out. Ella, nakte, why does he mention it? Mishum seifa. He mentions it because of what he says in the next line, where he says that to be machal Shabbos to save your possessions, that's usher. Lashmi'inan, to let you know, the le'inyan atzalas momoin, that when it comes to saving possessions, aser lo chal Shabbos afilu b'malacha she'eina tzricha legufa. The heter that you have to extinguish the fire, you should know you have a heter because of sakana, and also you should know it happens to be that kibui is a malacha she'eina tzricha legufa, it's a d'Rabbanan. You want to be Mechal Shabbos to save your possessions? That you're not allowed to do even by a Malacha Shedi Tzricha Legufa. Ta'afilu be'ised d'Rabbanan asa l'chal Shabbos b'shvil atzalas mammon. You're not allowed to be over even in Ised d'Rabbanan in order to save your possessions. I gave a long pause here because I was sure somebody was going to jump up. We said in Seif Beis, we had a day of Rishona, which the Mishnah Berurah seems to be going with throughout this Siman, that you're allowed to be over muktzah. You're allowed to be betaltal muktzah to save possessions. For sure, in the neighboring houses, even if not in the house where the fire is, but even in the neighboring houses, you could be betaltal money. You could take money to save money. So what do you mean telling me over here that you can't be over a drabanan? So the answer is that when the Mishnah Berurah says here, ta'afilu be'iser drabanan, also l'chal Shabbos b'shvil atzalas mammon, he doesn't mean an iser drabanan like muktzah. He means melacha derabanan. Muktzah is not melacha derabanan. It's not a rabbinically prohibited labor. It's a gzeira. It's an iser derabanan of muktzah, but it's not melacha derabanan. What the Chavetz Chaim means here is you're not allowed to be over melacha derabanan, even though he says the words iser derabanan. He means melacha derabanan. Also l'chal Shabbos b'shvil atzalas mammon. Ach, im hu balchoy v'safek shi tafsu einam Yehudim yesh l'tzadid b'zeh. Chavetz Chaim says if somebody is in debt, and in those days if somebody was in debt and he couldn't pay up his debts, they threw him in jail. So he says if somebody is in debt and if he doesn't save his possessions, there's a suffix that the non-Jews might take him and throw him in prison, he'll be in danger, then could be you are allowed to. Umasha kosa, this is weiter. All right, we'll go a couple lines weiter. Umasha kosa says the Chavetz Chaim, this that the Ramah is now going to say, if somebody was over, if somebody transgressed these laws and he was Mechal Shabbos, he has to fast. That is referring to other prohibited acts. But when it comes to extinguishing the fire, which we're saying now is mutter, ain't tzarich tshuva. You don't need tshuva. Somebody shouldn't think that if he went and he put out a fire on Shabbos, now he has to go make tanesim because he needs a kapara and he has to do tshuva for being Mechal Shabbos. No, like he said, it's a mitzvah to put out the fire. So don't go ahead and be a frumma and now say that you have to fast, you have to make tanesim to get a kapara. If you're going to do that, then somebody else is going to remember 6 months later, oh, I remember Yenim, he was Mechal Shabbos to put out a fire and he was fasting Bahab for 40 tanesim. So I want to be a frumma, I don't want to put out the fire. No, there's no such frumkeit. Okay, let's see if we can push to the end over here. The Ramah continues. The Ramah says, second line from the bottom, in the middle of the line. If somebody was over and he was Mechal Shabbos to go ahead and save possessions, tzarich lehis anois. This Ramah, he's basing this on the words of the Or Zarua, it looks to me. The Or Zarua says that you have to make tanesim, you have to make fast days. Arba'im Yom, 40 fasts, 40 tanesim, Sheni v'chamishi on Mondays and Thursdays. V'lo yishta yayin v'lo yochel basar, and after the fast is complete, you should not drink wine or eat meat. V'yitein b'mkayim chatas, shmoina asar pshitim l'tztaka, and really this person, if he was Mechal Shabbos b'shogig, he would have to bring a korban chatas. So instead of the korban chatas, he should give 18 coins to tztaka, and that's based on the value of a korban chatas. So that's really, it's a variable. If he's not well and he cannot fast, and he wants to redeem his fast days with money, with tztaka, yitain ba'ad kol yom, for every fast day he should give shtei masar pshitim l'tztaka, he should give 12 coins to tztaka, v'ayin b'tur yaredei milchas nida, siman kuf pei hey. Says the Mishnah Berurah in Ois Cotton Ayin Zayin, Sarkle, his honest, he has to fast. Afilu b'tchumin derabanan. This holds true even if he transgressed the laws of Eruve Tchumin, if he walked out of the Tchum, which is only the Rabbanan. V'chein al tiltal ner daluk k'dei lahatzel mammon. Similarly, if he handled a burning lamp in order to go search for money to save it from a burning house, mitzadid gamke b'sefer dogel meravava shetzarach lehisanois. This is not because of muktzah. Because again, we go back to Seif Beis, where we relax the laws of muktzah in the case of a fire. This is because we don't want him to handle the lamp because again, if he's going searching with a lamp and it's a building that's burning and he's handling a fire, he might come to put the fire out. We don't want him to do that, so if he transgresses that, he has to fast. Shenira lahakel bazeh b'tayna shlosh yamim, says the Chavetz Chaim, 3 days of fasting should be sufficient for that. Sheni v'chamishi v'sheni, a Monday, a Thursday, and a Monday. V'ulagam b'tchumen chakmer lehisanos. It could be that even by Ruvei Tchumen, where we're saying that he should fast, Arba'im Yom, 40 days, Ma'iri shelo hayah kol kach ha'mayra v'hefsed rav. That is only in a case where the fear of the fire wasn't so great and there wasn't the hefsed meruba. And even though we're short a little bit, we'll have to stop over here in time for Ma'ariv.